Soaking in vinegar will tell you if your blades are laminated.
Just use plain white vinegar, put them in a dish, and
Gather around, children. Even though my neighbor is using a circular saw to cut down a tree, I will educate you in this topic, which is actually very interesting. There's a few key points here. Usually, you do laminating to save on metal, right? You can take a big bar of soft steel and essentially do a little bit of hard steel in the middle, and then you have the same thing because now you have a hard cutting edge with an outer edge that is more flexible and amongst other things. Very popular in Japanese swords. That's where you get the whole sand mine term for them. Whenever you soak a metal that is ferrous in a acidic solution like vinegar, ferrous chloride, etc., you will see that the harder steel will turn a different color than the softer steel. But there is more. In comes the jamon. Not like ham in Spanish, but jamon, right? So a lot of knives, they'll put a layer of clay right on top of the knife. So when you heat it up and quench it, you will have a differentially tempered piece of steel. So you will see that you get that jamon line, that is the temper line. Notice this is actually done with homogeneous steel, not homosexual, homogeneous, which means of the same consistency throughout, and you will still get that line. The way you reveal a jamon is the same way, by etching it with an acidic base and polishing highly. What I'm trying to say is that just because it etches darker or lighter doesn't actually mean it's made out of two different metals. Because acidity will etch the harder metal, and since this is tempered higher or softer, you will get two different results, which is that very explicit line. Seeing a line in an axe, a chisel, or something like that does not particularly mean that it's made out of two different metals, just that that portion of metal is harder. And the best way to show you this is with axes. Axes will often have this big temper line, which is where they took the whole piece of steel and quenched it, but they only quenched to here because the pole of the axe, right? If this was the axe, you know, go poo, poo, right? The pole of the axe is supposed to remain softer in comparison to the edge. You're supposed to sharpen the edge, but the pole of the axe and the body is supposed to remain relatively soft. Hence, you create differentially tempered portions of steel. And that's why it etches that way. And yes, of course, it is true that some axe companies will use a harder piece of metal, typical semi-construction, and that's what you would think this is, but it really isn't. It is, at the end, the differentially tempered portion of metal being corroded at a different rate than the soft one. Anyways, hope you learned something. If you have any questions, and if you want to see any other topics, let me know.